When it comes to sequencing your classes, the thing that a lot of yoga teachers run into when it comes to trying to empower their students, using the right cues and giving, really great modifications, is that the way that their entire class is presented is not selling the student. So therefore, the student is not convinced, no matter what type of cues you use or the modifications that you give them. They're not convinced. And that's why I like to think of sequencing as an entire presentation. It is literally a sales pitch. And some of you might be sitting there thinking, oh, sales, that feels yucky for yoga. This is yoga. This is not sales. You are. As a yoga teacher, you are selling your students on various things. And when it comes to teaching in a way that is empowering, supportive, inclusive, in a way that really helps your students connect deeper with themselves, you need to sell them on the idea that taking the steps or making the decisions that are more aligned with them and what it is that they need is going to be better than them overriding and then them going down that path of doing what it is that they think they should do, or what the teacher's doing, or what other students around them are doing, or the thing that they saw on Instagram or on the internet that they are perceiving as being better, more valuable. So the problem that a lot of yoga teachers face when it comes to the way that they sequence and or their ability to really support their students in their individuality is that they're not pitching. Their class is not a sales pitch. And this comes a lot from the need to have a class tick all the boxes, as I've already mentioned, and be something that is based around performance. And when the class is really rooted in practice, not performance, the way you present your entire class from start to finish, which essentially, in my perspective, is a sequence, right? It's not just a sequence of like stringing postures together, but it's the whole setup of the class. The way you present that is really what needs to change. That is what moves the needle, because you are selling students on an idea, especially when we go back and we look at their programming, their mindset, their conditioning, their tendencies, their habits, the herd mentality, all those things. You have to sell them in the entire class so that you are convincing them, or you're in the very least planting the seed that them choosing to do something because they're mindfully choosing, not because they're just defaulting to doing what they think they should be doing, or like I mentioned, what the teacher's doing, what another student is doing beside them, what they saw on the internet. When you begin to sell them on the idea that this is actually a better path, and what they have been doing is not, and they see the value. It's not just like, that's bad, that's good, but you have to make them see the value in taking these other options. So if you get a student who is a complete beginner, and I have tested this many times because I had a studio for 5 years where I taught exactly in these ways. If you have a student that is brand new and you're able to work with them from the get-go, man, I will tell you that is completely different than trying to unravel a lot of these conditionings and programs in relation to what a yoga practice should be from people who have been practicing for a while. So unless you're working with a student who is brand new, but still, mind you, you still need to look at a lot of their like no pain, no gain. But that student that you're working with that is brand new to yoga, they are much more inclined to have less things to unravel on top of their like human conditioning and, all of the stuff that we've already explored. But they then don't have the extra layer of what a yoga practice should be on top of that because they haven't experienced that yet. So let's just put that to the side. Let's look at most students that you would be teaching, unless every single class you teach beginners, which is highly unlikely. Generally, what's happening is that we're teaching repeat students that are coming back. And so unless you've worked with them using this kind of style of teaching from the very beginning of their journey, which is unlikely, then you need to sell them on the idea that what you're proposing is more valuable for them than this other way that they're accustomed to, or that they've been told, or that they've perceived is to be better, which is really, in a nutshell, them performing yoga poses, getting the look of the pose, not the effect, not the function of the pose. So the most important thing within your sequencing is to literally present your entire class as a sales pitch. And doing that in a way that is invitational, that isn't shoving something down someone's throat, and that really empowers your students to strongly consider what it is that you're sharing, because they're not going to straight away jump on board. They might even push against, because it challenges what their idea of a yoga class is. It challenges what they've defined a yoga class to be. So it's not just how we're cueing things, that's a part, but it's not only that. It's not just how we're modifying, that's a part, but it's not only that. It's not just the sequence and the order that we put these things in, it's not only that, but it is the way that all these things are combined and the way you present them all from the first moment that you step into that room, that you step in front of your students, to the very last moment. And this is one of the most fundamental tools that you can use, and pieces of information for you to take everything that is in this adaptive asana method and apply it into your classes. You have to be able to present the value for your student as to why they might try these different things or practice in a slightly different way. And that has to be more valuable to them than this other way that they're presently doing. Whether this is at the beginning of the class, the middle of the class, the beginning of a sequence, the end of a sequence, the first time you present a particular option, that's going to be a big one. This versus the second time, versus the third time, versus, when you're explaining things and being a little bit more thorough in the way you deliver, versus taking a bit more of a hands-off approach and just referring to, we've already focused on XYZ, and now I leave it to you guys. Now I leave it to you to decide what is going to be the best thing for you. So when we're in the asana portion, you're going to see this in a little bit more action. So some of this might not fully land right now, so you can always come back to this and rewatch this after you go through the asana portion of the course.